I'm Shomo Data, and this is Built to Trust. Today we are talking about roadmaps that actually ship, not wish lists, not theater. A roadmap is a schedule of real landings that respects physics. We will make planning probabilistic. We will talk about capacity honestly. We will set limits on work in progress, and we will use evidence to change our minds without drama. You will hear a set of tools that you can copy into Monday. Clear language, simple math, boring rituals that produce calm landings. Here is how we will move through the episode. First, what a roadmap is and is not. Second, how to translate strategy into pillars and then into outcome risk options, which is our term for the items we will choose among. Third, how to write a one-page outcome risk card that captures impact, probability, downside exposure, effort, and time to learn. Fourth, how to build a capacity model and set work in progress limits. Fifth, how to run intake and triage through a single front door. Sixth, a prioritization method you will actually use with risk-adjusted impact per unit of effort. Seventh, sequencing by learning, including M0 discovery, M1 de-risk, M2 integrate, and M3 deliver. Eighth, change notes, go and no-go, stop-loss triggers, and freeze windows. Ninth, an operating rhythm that keeps your plan honest. 10th, metrics that do not invite gaming. 11th, anti-patterns and fixes. 12th, short stories that make the tools real. 13th, an action kit you can lift into your team. 14th, coaching managers and stakeholders. 15th, how to do all of this in remote and hybrid settings. Then we will land the episode and preview the next one. Let's begin with what a roadmap is. A roadmap is a schedule of landings that you can explain to an adult in 1 minute. Each landing has a date, a thin slice of value, and a short list of risks that you will retire before that date. The roadmap shows the next few landings in detail and the horizon after that in coarser strokes. The roadmap is not a deck of wishes. It is not a gallery of screenshots. It is not a bag of points. It is not a list of slogans like Big Bang or platform or step change. It is a dated promise with a plan to keep it and a plan to renegotiate early if reality moves. The promise math is simple. You have scope, you have schedule, you have specific, you have staffing. You can set 3 and you must negotiate 1. If you lock all 4, you do not have a plan. You have a confession and a countdown to an apology. In real life, spec and safety are often fixed. When that is true, you negotiate scope and staffing, or you move the date. If you refuse to negotiate, you pay with quality and with trust. The roadmap makes those trades visible on purpose. Now let's translate strategy into things a team can actually ship. Strategy gives you a reason to choose. It tells you where to win and where not to play. You distill strategy into 3 to 5 pillars. Each pillar expresses a direction and a constraint, not a giant project. For example, reliability first for flight data, expand into adjacent use cases, reduce cost per operation by a meaningful percent. Each pillar then spawned a set of outcome risk options. We used to call these bets. I prefer outcome risk options because it forces 2 questions. What outcome do we expect? What risk are we taking? An outcome risk option is a hypothesis in the form of a one-line if-then. If we do this work, then this outcome will improve by a certain amount with a certain probability within a certain amount of time. You can add the downside in the same breath. If it fails, this is the cost, and this is the safety margin or trust margin it touches. Each option has an owner. Each option has an approver. Each option has a way to learn fast and cheaply. We capture each option on a one-page outcome risk card. The card is the unit of planning. Let me walk you through the fields. First, the target outcome. Use the sentence we keep using on this show. Done when X, measured by Y, observed in Z. If you cannot finish that sentence, the option is not ready for the roadmap. Second, the impact range. Do not use a single point estimate. Write best, likely, and worst. For example, We expect a likely improvement of 3% in a key metric, with a best case of 6% and a worst case of 0. The numbers are small and practical on purpose. Most improvements are not heroic events. They are compounding small moves. Third, the probability of success. Use buckets so you do not argue false precision. Low is around 0.3. Medium is around 0.6. High is around 0.8. Choose one. Write Y. Fourth, expected value. Take the likely impact and multiply by the probability bucket. If likely impact is 5% and probability is medium at 0.6, expected value is 3%. This is a crude but honest way to compare options. Fifth, downside exposure. Take 1 minus probability. Multiply by the cost of failure. Cost can be rework days, an alert budget hit, a safety margin reduction, or a customer impact. Write it in units your team understands. You want to make the hidden costs visible. Sixth, effort. Write real person weeks or real dollars or a reserve slot in your cycle. Do not hide effort behind points or colors. People plan their weeks, not their points. Seventh, time to learn. What is the smallest test that will materially change the probability? If you can update your belief in 3 days, say so. If it will take a soak of 12 hours or a flight test, say so. Time to learn is one of the most important fields on the card. Eighth, kill and commit thresholds. Write rules. Kill if expected. Value falls below a small number after the first milestone, or if downside exposure spikes past a limit. Commit if expected. Value rises above a threshold and downside remains small. These boundaries keep you from falling in love with your own idea or chasing a sunk cost. Ninth, owner and approver. The owner runs the work and writes the change notes. The approver is the decider. Link the card to the decision log, to the dashboards, and to any change note you will need if the outcome unlocks a ship decision. We can do a small example. Outcome reduce ingest P 99 latency to under 200 milliseconds for 12-hour runs. Impact range best plus 8%, likely plus 5%, worst 0. Probability medium 0.6. Expected value equals 3%. Downside exposure 40% chance of 2 days rework and a hit to the error budget that equals around 0.8 days of cleanup and a small trust cost. Effort 5 days. Time to learn. A 6-hour soak with jitter and watchdog on. Kill if expected. Value is less than 2% after the first milestone. Commit if expected. Value is at least 4% and downside exposure is under half a day. Owner and approver are named. Links are ready. That is a card you can prioritize against another card. Do not over-focus on the math. We use small numbers to force clarity, not to pretend we control the world. The goal is to compare options honestly and to update our beliefs when we learn. When you finish a milestone, you update the probability, the expected value, and the downside exposure. Then you consider whether the rank should change. You write the delta. Probability went up or probability went down. People trust plans that change for reasons you can explain in one sentence. Now, capacity and work in progress. Capacity is not your head count. Capacity is who is actually available by skill, by stream, in a given week. Capacity subtracts reality. Subtract on call. Subtract interrupts. Subtract the training you already promised. Subtract the time people need to review and write and think. Then write what is truly left to move the roadmap. It will be less than you want. This is good. It will force you to choose. Make a small capacity sheet per stream. Name the people. Name their primary skill. Name the number of hours per week that can be devoted to roadmap work. Reserve a percentage for risk reduction options. I like 20 to 30% early on, then taper as you retire uncertainties. Reserve fixed time for hygiene and quality, like runbook updates and test harness maintenance. When you undercount hygiene, you pay for it later in defects and in burnout. Set limits on work in progress. If 3 people can do high leverage feature work in a streamless cycle, you probably want 2 outcome risk options in progress at once, not 6. WIP limits force you to finish and to learn. WIP limits also protect the team from constant context switching. Limit WIP per person 2. If someone is critical at a seam, give them room to complete things. You want fewer items completed, not many items half done. Protect freeze windows. A freeze window is a time or phase when you will not land changes. It can be the last 2 days of a 6-week cycle. It can be the last morning before a flight test. It can be a maintenance window promised to a customer. Write the freeze window on the roadmap. If you must break the freeze window, do it with a short written exception that names the risk, the rollback, and the decider. Then do not make a habit of exceptions. Now intake and triage. One front door for work. If everything can arrive anywhere, you will live in priority fights. Create a simple form or a short document that people must fill in for new requests. Keep it lightweight. The standard I like is a 24-hour clear brief. Clear means context, levers, end state, accountability, and runway. Context is why now. Levers are what is fixed and what is flexible. End state is done when, measured by, observed in. Accountability is owner and approver. Runway is the next 2 milestones. Require this for anything that asks the roadmap to change. Approve or reject or defer within 1 business day. People trust the front door when it responds. Classify requests by class of service. Date-driven items are those with an external commitment that will happen with or without you. Outcome-driven items are those that drive a pillar forward. Risk reduction items are those that retire uncertainty. Hygiene items are those that keep the system alive and maintainable. Put items in lanes on the roadmap by class, then rank within each lane. This stops the game where everything is labeled critical. If everything is P1, nothing is real. Now a prioritization method you will actually use. You already have expected value and downside exposure and effort on each card. Compute a simple risk-adjusted score. Take expected value minus downside exposure. Divide by effort. Use this as your first rank. Break ties with time to learn. If 2 items have similar scores, pick the one that updates probability faster. Break the next tie with strategic fit to the pillar. Break the next tie with operational reality, like staffing availability or a freeze window. The point is not the precise score. The point is to have a defensible ordering you can explain to a reasonable human. When you do this, you will find that some items with loud internal champions rank lower because their probability is low, or their downside exposure is high, or their effort is large, or their time to learn is long. That is fine. You can schedule a small discovery milestone to improve the probability, or you can trim scope, or you can choose a smaller, faster option that unlocks the same outcome with less risk. Sequencing now. Think in milestones that reflect learning. M0 discovery is the smallest work that updates your probability. It might be a spike, a small experiment, or a user interview series, or a soak that confirms feasibility. M1 de-risk is the work that retires the top uncertainty that would threaten the next landing. M2 integrate is where you hook into real interfaces and system behavior. M3 deliver is the thin slice of value on the date. After each milestone, you update the card. Probability goes up or down. Expected value adjusts. Downside exposure changes. If the rank changes, you say so, and you say why. You show the math in 1 sentence. Sequence by the learning critical path. Your critical path is not only dependencies between tasks. Your critical path includes the order of learning that unlocks later work. You may discover that a short experiment on week 1 changes the rank of a large item and saves you 4 weeks of effort. Put experiments early. Put interface proofs early. Put the soak for a risky seam early. Land thin slices that let you observe real behavior while you still have time to act. Maintain a short subtraction list per cycle. The subtraction list is what you will not do in the next 6 weeks, even though it is tempting. Write it down. This acts like a guardrail for focus. Additions require a small change note and a clear trade against the subtraction list. Adults like explicit subtraction. It frees them from the fear that everything will be piled on top. Change notes, go and no-go, stop loss, and freeze windows come next. We covered change notes in management of change. Here is the short version. Any meaningful change to scope, spec, or date gets a 1-paragraph note. What is changing? Why now? What could go wrong? How we will reduce risk and limit blast radius. Who decides? How we will prove it worked. Attach go and no-go criteria. Attach rollback. Go and no-go is a boring paragraph that you write before you try to land. It names numeric pass gates and clear abort triggers. It names the decider. It names the rollback time. It stops arguments at the worst moment. It forces you to commit while you are calm. Add a stop-loss trigger to your plan. This is a guardrail that says when you will stop pouring effort into an option and move to another. For example, stop if error budget is breached twice in 1 hour, or stop if the expected value drops below a threshold after the first milestone. Write it. Keep it. Freeze windows are in your calendar and in your plan. Enforce them without drama. If you must break the freeze for a safety fix, name the incident level, name the roles, and write the rollback in the note. Otherwise, protect the last mile. Let's put this into a weekly operating rhythm so the roadmap breathes without thrashing people. On Monday morning, each stream posts an intent. The intent fits on 1 page. It says context, levers, end state, accountability, and runway. It includes a short line for the outcome risk option in play. It includes the expected value, the current probability, the top risk, and the time to learn this week. It names the milestone due and the pass gates. People can read it in 2 minutes and know the plan. On Wednesday, you close 1 decision, 1 document, 45 minutes. You either decide or you write what evidence is missing and who will produce it by when. You update the decision log with 5 lines and you link the evidence. If a probability changes, you update the card. On Friday, each stream posts a truth roll-up. Moved, blocked, need. 1 number, 1 risk trend. Add an update on probability and expected value for any option that finished a milestone. Say what changed. Probability up or probability down. Expected value up or expected value down. If a downside exposure grew because a dependency flaked, say so and say what you are doing next week. During week 5, you harden and you soak and you fix seams. During week 6, you demo truth, you run a retro, and you reset the baseline. Your baseline is scope, schedule, spec, and spend for the next 6 weeks, plus known risks and reserves. Update the configuration index of your plan. Carry forward outcome risk cards with new probabilities. Close any safety actions you committed to. Put the next landings on the calendar with their go and no-go paragraphs. Now, metrics that do not get gamed. Promise kept rate with scope. Integrity is first. You measure the percentage of commitments that landed on time at the scope you said. If you hit every date by cutting work in half, this number will tell on you because you record scope changes as changes, not as magic. Track cycle time from start to finish of a thin slice. Track rework rate and defect age because quality is the quiet cousin of trust. Track decision latency because slow decisions sync roadmaps. Track time to learn because options that update probability quickly save you weeks. Track WIP per person because overloaded people cause long tails. Track forecast accuracy by comparing delivered outcomes to expected value ranges. If you never miss, your ranges are fake. If you always miss, your planning is fake. Aim to be wrong in small ways and to learn quickly. Now, anti-patterns and fixes. OKR soup is common. There are too many objectives and too many key results, and none of them cooperate. Fix it by naming 3 to 5 pillars and moving every item under 1 pillar. Kill or merge any key result that does not map to a pillar or that is not measurable. Watermelon status is common. Everything looks green in the deck and red inside. Fix it by banning adjectives in status and posting numbers over words. Use 2 truths and 1 risk. For example, P95 latency is 180 milliseconds after index change. 3 of 5 rehearsal runs are clean end to end. Risk is vendor SDK hang and jitter greater than 200 milliseconds. If 3 hangs by Wednesday, we switch to watchdog. No one needs to interpret that. It is clear. Everything P1 is common. Fix it by forcing the card math. Expected value minus downside exposure divided by effort. If an item still claims P1, but the math does not support it, bring evidence or move it down. You can also create lanes like date-driven and outcome-driven and risk reduction and hygiene so that a date-driven item does not crowd out safety or quality forever. Lanes make trade-offs legitimate. Anchoring on initial probability is common. Fix it by writing a rule that probability must be reviewed at M0 discovery and at M1 de-risk. You are allowed to raise probability or to cut it. You must write why. Over time, this builds a culture where people do not fear changing their minds. Calendar stuffing is common. People think full calendars equal full progress. The opposite is often true. Fix it by protecting a writing block for each owner, protecting a floor walk for each manager, and limiting standing meetings. Replace oral status with written weekly truth. Over-planning is common. You polish a plan until it feels safe. Under-planning is also common. You wing it and call it agile. Fix both by writing small plans that answer decisions, running small experiments that update probability, and adjusting openly. Humility beats theater. Hero culture is common. People carry too much and then burn out. Fix it by limiting work in progress, by making small honest landings, by praising boring on-time deliveries, and by refusing to reward chaos you invited. Hidden backlog is common. People keep secret lists and do drive-by asks. Fix it with one front door and with a visible parking lot. If a leader tries to sneak work around the front door, you gently redirect. If the work is truly urgent, it enters as a date-driven item and bumps something else visibly. Now, some short stories to make this real. I will change names and details to protect people, but the patterns are true. A team had a roadmap with 8 items in flight and nothing landing. Stress was high. We ran a capacity sheet. It showed that only 3 people could do the critical seam work this cycle, and they were split across 6 outcomes. We set WIP to 2 and moved 4 cards into the parking lot. We wrote thin landing slices for the 2 left. We added a small experiment on week 1 to update probability on a risky card. Morale improved in 3 days because people felt permission to finish. 2 landings hit within the cycle, and the team believed the roadmap again. A leader wanted a huge platform push to reduce cost. The card looked epic and attractive. The probability was low because of integration risk. The downside exposure was high because of possible outages. We created a smaller option with a clear time to learn. The smaller option had a higher risk adjusted score and a faster time to learn. We ran it for 1 cycle. Probability on the big option fell after M0 because the integration risk was real. The small option delivered a meaningful % cost win. The big option was deferred. The leader thanked the team for saving them a year of regret. A product partner wanted a date-driven demo with an unrealistic scope. We wrote a change note. What is fixed? The date is fixed. Safety is fixed. What is flexible? Scope is flexible. Staffing is flexible within a small range. We wrote a thin landing that still told a true story for the demo. We set a freeze window and a go and no-go paragraph. The date landed with dignity. The next cycle finished the full slice. Trust with the partner went up because we did not promise a miracle and then fail. A team had a backlog of hygiene debt. People were tired. Incidents rose. We created a hygiene lane with a fixed % of capacity. We wrote small cards for runbook updates. test harness refactors, and on-call training. We measured defect age and rework rate. Both improved within 2 cycles. Feature velocity rose even though we reserved time for hygiene. This is the quiet magic of quality. Now the action kit. This is what you can copy into your team without a workshop. First, a 1-page outcome risk card template. It contains the fields we covered: outcome impact range, probability bucket, expected value, downside exposure, effort, time to learn, kill and commit thresholds, owner and approver, links to dashboards, decision log, and change notes. Second, a capacity sheet. It lists people by stream. It lists available hours per week. It subtracts interrupts. It reserves a % for risk reduction and for hygiene. It shows how many outcome cards can be in progress. It is simple and visible. Third, a prioritization grid. It has columns for expected value, downside exposure, effort, time to learn, and the computed risk adjusted score. It has conditional formatting to show high score items. It also has a column to mark class of service and pillar. You can build it in any spreadsheet in 15 minutes. Fourth, a change note template and a go and no-go snippet. The change note says what changes, why now, what could go wrong, controls, verification, rollback, comms, and approver. The go and no-go snippet is a short paragraph with numeric gates, abort triggers, decider, and rollback steps. Fifth, a 6-week calendar with Monday intents, Wednesday decision closes, Friday truth roll-ups, a week 5 hardening window, and a week 6 demo and retro and baseline update. Sixth, a short set of phrases to use in rooms, done when measured by observed in, expected value and probability, time to learn, risk-adjusted impact, freeze window, change note, go and no-go, stop loss, 2 truths and 1 risk. These phrases change behavior because they change what people ask for. Coaching managers and stakeholders now. Managers need a simple routine. On Monday, write the intent. On Tuesday, do a floor walk and read a real artifact. On Wednesday, close a decision. On Thursday, review the top risk and touch a run book. On Friday, publish a truth. Roll up with 1 number and 1 risk trend and any probability updates. Praise boring on-time landings in public. Coach privately when you see theater. When stakeholders push for everything at once, translate their ask into the physics we have named. Say this: we can land thin on this date with safety margin, or we can go around 1 week and land more. Here is the expected value difference and the downside exposure. Here is the freeze window. Here is the go and no-go. Which trade do you prefer? Most reasonable stakeholders pick a safe landing when you put the choice in concrete terms. If an executive tries to add a surprise mid-cycle, use the front door with respect. Ask for the 24-hour clear brief. Show them where their request lands on the prioritization grid and what will move out. Offer a small discovery milestone that gives them a fast answer. If they insist, write the change note and make the trade visible. Remote and hybrid teams can run this system without drama. Write more. Speak in numbers. Keep artifacts in one place with clear names. Use a single channel for road mapping updates. Use time-stamped messages during key runs. Post screenshots of dashboards instead of long descriptions. Record short screen captures when needed. Do not make a live meeting your only source of truth. If you do a live review, post the decision log entry immediately after. Let's answer a few questions I hear a lot. What do we do when a large customer or a regulator demands a date that collides with our plan? Answer with a thin slice and a freeze window. Offer a truthful story that fits the date. Protect safety and quality. Then schedule the remainder. Write the trade in the change note. What if we have a dependency that will not share their probability or their readiness truth? Treat the dependency as a risk with its own card. Schedule a small integration test that updates your probability about them. Create a plan that reduces your exposure to their slip. Write a stop loss that says when you will switch providers or ship a smaller alternative. What if we do not have enough staff for the roadmap? Admit it in the capacity sheet, reduce scope, move dates, use a subtraction list. If the business wants it all, ask for specific staffing with start dates. Do not carry fantasy staffing. It breaks trust and hurts people. What if our scoring feels fake or politicized? Bring it back to 2 truths and 1 risk. Make options prove their value by updating probability through real tests. Publish expected value deltas after each milestone. It is hard to politicize a 1-line sentence that says probability went down after an experiment, and here is what we will do. What if we are constantly replanning? If you are replanning weekly from scratch, you do not have pillars and you do not have lanes. Put items under pillars. Fix lanes. Only re-rank when probability or expected value changes because of evidence or when a date-driven item forces a trade. Hold the line. A final compact checklist you can start this week. 1. Build a capacity sheet per stream. Subtract reality. Set WIP limits. Reserve time for risk reduction and hygiene. 2. Write 3 to 5 pillars. Move everything under a pillar. Kill or merge anything that does not fit. 3. For your top 10 ideas, write 1-page outcome risk cards. Fill in outcome, impact range, probability, expected value, downside exposure, effort, time to learn, thresholds, owner, and links. 4. Make a simple prioritization grid and rank by risk-adjusted score. Break ties with time to learn, place items in lanes. 5. Publish a 6-week calendar with Monday intents, Wednesday decision closes, Friday truth roll-ups, a week 5 hardening window, and a week 6 demo and retro and baseline update. 6. For the next landing, write the go and no-go paragraph and the rollback. Put it on the wall. Make it boring. 7. Add a change note requirement for scope, spec, or date shifts. Keep it 1 paragraph unless your domain requires more. 8. In your Friday roll-up, add probability updates and expected value deltas for any item that passed a milestone. Say out loud what changed. 9. Celebrate the first boring landing that hits on time with the scope you wrote. Make that the standard. 10. Teach your team the short language and insist on it. Done when measured by observed in, expected value, probability, time to learn, risk adjusted, freeze window, change note, go and no go, stop loss, 2 truths and 1 risk. Roadmaps that ship are not about fortune telling. They are about building a small system where truth shows up early, choices are explicit, and people can finish work without drowning. You translate strategy into pillars and options. You compare those options honestly. You learn fast with small experiments. You protect the last mile with freeze windows and go and no go. You keep score with numbers that tell the truth. You land, you retro, you reset the baseline, and you go again. Over time, trust compounds because people can predict how your team will act under pressure. That is what we are building. If this episode helped, follow Built to Trust wherever you listen. Hit subscribe. Share it with a teammate who is tired of wish lists and wants a schedule of real landings. Your ratings and reviews help more builders find the show and build with more signal and less noise. Next week is episode 10, Humans in the Loop. We will talk about simulation and hardware in the loop and operational reality. We will talk about fidelity versus velocity. We will talk about designing for recovery and human factors. We will make sim and lab time serve decisions. We will keep the same tone. Clear language, small, copyable tools. I'm Shomo Data. Thanks for listening.